All right, this is Hello Again Wednesday number 66. And last week I was unable to be with you as we were, um, uh, I was actually on the road, and so it made things difficult. So, where I was unable to do a Hello Again Wednesday last week, I almost thought about being like those real professionals, who go on vacation and do a repeat, but I did not. And so then and I'll explain in just a moment. I kept thinking, well, I'll do it on Thursday or Friday, excuse me, Friday, or I'll do it even on Saturday. And then it was just like, you know what? My mind was really jumbled up. And so in the past, if I missed one other Hello Again Wednesday one time, and I did a oops. I did what they call the Hello Again Wednesday oops segment, and when I did that, you know, uh, that's what I thought I could do again, but I just couldn't, and it was just kind of messed up just a little bit, and so I'll explain what happened in just a little bit as we're getting along here. Before I really get into even the very question of the day, like I always do, I have to say this. Today is Connie and I's 37th anniversary. And so on this day, as time is ticking on, we had a late afternoon, very late afternoon wedding. She wanted all the ascots and all the black tie, whatever. And so, not whatever, but she had it designed in such a way for that evening wedding. And so we had that, and 37 years ago, and have not looked back one iota. And so she knows exactly that I love her with all my heart. I try to express it all the time, and I will say this: I'm very lucky because she has put up with me for 37 years, and in the good and the bad, and it has been so good. I would not change it for the world. Okay, so here we are. You can always watch Hello Again Wednesdays on obviously on my Facebook page every Wednesday in the afternoons usually, or you can even see it on the church's Facebook page, Culver City Church of God Ministries on Facebook, or you can even watch it on Culver City Church of God YouTube, or you can watch it on my YouTube channel, which is Brent Miller, What's on His Mind. And so you can always catch up on these Hello Again Wednesdays that I do every Wednesday. I am so glad that you join me week after week. Go ahead and click the like buttons and thumbs up or whatever, and cares or whatever, and those subscribe buttons and notification buttons, so you know exactly when I am doing a live Hello Again Wednesday. I appreciate you joining me week after week. All right. So here is the question of the day. Who watches over you when you are in the storm? So what happened last week is I flew out, and Lauren flew out with me, and we picked up Ashley and the three grandkids, and they flew back, and we made some very quick stops, such as a quick hello to Connie's parents, which is a little over a mile away from my parents. A quick hello to my parents, and then we were heading back. There's storms that are plowing through not only the Midwest, especially, but we're soon to hit where we were at. And so my goal was to get out as soon as possible to avoid as many storms as possible. And of course, we did miss the blizzards and the snowstorms, and very grateful for that. And then, because of a time crunch and time thought process, when Ashley and I were driving, we actually drove for 25 hours to Tucson. And so we stopped, I think, for breakfast at a Cracker Barrel, really good food there. We also stopped, periodically for a quick bite to eat, sometimes while we were driving, most times while we were driving, or we stopped for snacks while we're driving, coffee while we're driving. And so we're just kind of racing to get to out of, I'm going to say, extremely cold weather. I have, my blood has probably thinned between age and California living. And so it was bitter cold. And I could not wait to get back. And when we got to Tucson, I just got out of the van and went, oh, I had my t-shirt on. It was awesome. Tucson is one of my favorite places. And so I did enjoy pulling in there. As we traveled, there are some things. We stopped in one gas station, and in one gas station, we walked in. We were going to use the restroom, grab some snacks and stuff, and we walked in, and Ashley had already gotten in. I was gassing. I was topping off because when you're doing those desert trips, man, you just got to make sure you have gas in your vehicle and stuff. And so I'm gassing up. She's already in there. I walk in and she gives me the look, and I already know something's up. I look over. There's one bathroom door. It's just covered in grime, and it's funny because Ashley will tell you a story. The person, I think, didn't even lock the door, and so it was such a disaster. And she looked at me and I just went, I can hold it. And so we turned around and had gone out of that gas station up the road to another one. In traveling, because I've done this travel back and forth a few times, and one of my favorite gas stations is Love's. I do like the Love's gas station. There's quite a few of them on the way. There's plenty of room to pull into your gas pumps and to fill up. They're usually some of the cheapest that you can fill up at least until you get to California. And then, or actually right now, it seems like all gas prices are skyrocketing. But I love them. And not only that, they're stocked with some great snacks. So you can grab something, eat on the way and stuff like that. Or you can also, which I do a lot, and that is grab a great cup of coffee from Love's. And I'll tell you this, as much as I told you about that one gas station, you know what? Pulled into this one Love's, and it was early in the morning. Oh my goodness, it was still dark. And like I said, we were driving 25 straight hours to Tucson. And I'm going to blame my dad, because my dad's like, yeah, me and Trent, we drove it in 23. Of course, in my head, I'm like, Dad, look how young you were when you drove that with Trent. And so I take a sip of my coffee in the van, and it's the most disgusting coffee I have ever tasted. And I try it, so I'm driving, and I take a sip here. Oh, man. And I'm driving, I take another sip, and finally, like, 2 or 3 sips, I just couldn't do it. It was so stinking nasty. And Ashley, I think she'll tell you, if you ask her, I think she tried to choke down half of that cup and still couldn't finish the whole thing. It was so disgusting. But I did not give up on Love's, because I did get some more after that. At the next gas stations and stuff. I think at one time though, I was a little shake of the nerves, and I don't like doing this very often, but I did purchase a Starbucks, cold Frappuccino mocha, and at least you can't go wrong with it. You gotta do the pound, get that mocha shaken, and I did that, and so I did that for the trip and stuff, and that was some of our excursion on this humongous 24-hour trek. In this trek, though, we're in this, I believe it was New Mexico. And it was funny because this one lady, early on when we first went into New Mexico, and I have friends that live out in there, when we pulled in, this lady goes, where are you heading? We're heading out to LA. And she goes, from here all the way to at least Arizona, there's a lot of cops. And she was not lying. As soon as we pulled out of their gas station, cops were there. Cops were here. Cops were here. Cops were here. And we saw cops even on these. I mean, it was a highway, but it was like, man, 2 lanes or whatever. And there's just cops all over the place. Not that we were speeding, some people will tell you otherwise, but not that we were speeding. And, but in New Mexico, was some of the worst windstorms. People talk about Texas. Yeah, it's windy on that panhandle. I've been in those, but this was really, really rocking with a windstorm. And not only with windstorms, but there was sandstorms too. And so I'm driving through these sandstorms and with and tumbleweed storms. I'm telling you, there was all kinds of storms we were driving through. Even in Arizona, tumbleweed storms. And so we're driving along, and I'm behind this. As you pull in and pull off, sometimes you see the same vehicles over and over. I had this one vehicle. I'd already passed him one other time. Pulled off, got another Coke or coffee or something. Pulled back on. I see the guy again, and I'm following him, and it's a pickup truck. I believe he's in construction or something, because he's pulling this trailer with like welders and equipment and stuff like that. And I'm behind him, and I'm driving, and man, I just got to pass this dude. And so I get ready, and in the instance that I began to make that thought process and to make my move to pass this individual off of the back of his pickup truck, the bed of his pickup truck, the topper, which is the flat topper, not the big ones, but the flat topper on the bed of his truck flies off. And it's like in slow motion as I'm going, whoa, and pulling over, in this other lane and luckily no cars, because it's all my thought process, I believe. And so I'm making my move, and this thing's flying over me. And Ashley, we're like in awe. And now, earlier these storms, we had been making, we had been talking and laughing and for hours, obviously. And some of the joking was about, Twister, the tornado movie. And how you'd see cows, because we were seeing cows and stuff in this big windstorm. And so that thing flew off, and she's in awe and whoa, oh my money, and all this other stuff. And I just went, I believe it was me, Ashley. I went, cow, and we just busted out laughing, because that is what it looked like flying by us. It was one of those cows in the movie Twister. Anyway, so we're flying down the road, and yeah, okay, at some point in time maybe, and so we're getting there, and these windstorms were so bad that tumbleweeds were flying across the roadway. And I've seen tumbleweeds before and stuff, and so uh, um, but the wind was so strong, it would pick up these tumbleweeds that were just ginormous. I would call them tumble trees. This is because you could see that thick stalk. Some of them, those little tumbleweeds, you're like, oh, they're just tiny little translucent things, and but with these other ones, I could see them shaking on the side of the road, and then all of a sudden they just uproot and start flying over to our lanes. And so that whole time you had to determine, am I going to speed up? Do I slow down? How am I going to make sure that I do not hit, especially those were like hitting rocks. And so now I did hit a few of those tiny ones. In fact, when we pulled into LA, into the driveway, there's some that are sticking out of the grill. It was okay, but I did not hit one of those big ones. And so a lot of that took place. And so going back to that truck where it came off, for me, I'm like, man, God was really watching out for us. So we get home to LA, and Ashley's telling the story to all of them with all the details. And if I'm not mistaken, because I think I was outside, I was still unloading the van and stuff. And I think I heard Connie say, man, that's God watching out for you guys on the road. And it is absolutely that. God was watching out for us on that 2,100 and some mile trek that we made across the mid-country to here in LA. And during that time, I know a lot of people are, hey, how's the van? How's her van? How's her van? How's her van? Tell you what, God watched out. Not one thing went wrong with that van. And so here we are in LA. And so for me, it's easy. I know God watches out for me in all these storms. Connie might say, over these 37 years, God watched out for us. And I will agree. God has always been part. That's probably why we've done 30. I know that's why we've made it through 37 years, is because of faith. Okay. And so you can too, just so you know. But he's always going to watch out for you and me through the storm. But that's the question. Who's watching out for you in the storms? I am so glad you have joined me this week with Hello Again Wednesday. I look forward to seeing you next week. It is almost 2 p.m. here on the West Coast, out in warm. Actually, to tell the truth, it's cold. It must be in the 60s, or it is cold out here. And so to me, and it's almost 2 p.m. out here on the West Coast, out by Marina Del Rey and Culver City, LA. That's where we live. And you are more than welcome. If you're in the area, walk down them stairs right over there. That's where I'm at. I'm downstairs getting ready for the Bible study. Walk down those stairs. Join us for a Bible study as Pastor Mark does, leads us with the book of Acts. Or you can join us via Zoom. And I'll try to look. If you need that link, you can join us with that Zoom link here on the West Coast. Hey, so glad you're with me. You guys have a great, awesome week, and I'm going to see if I can walk us right back out of here.